Hey everybody, let's talk about another galactic on 30 Days of Galactics. This is Wasp. Now, Wasp is a mantid, and to be clear for those who use the word mantis, he has always been adamant that he is a mantid with a D, not a mantis. And there are actually many of these beings I've met who say they are mantids, not mantises. And it's very, very strongly encourage that people understand that they're different, they're not the same. He is an insect being. He is a being. He's never told me this actually. He's a being from Antares. He just popped that in my head and like, you've never told me that. And he's like, well, you've never asked. It's true. It's true. I've never asked. And so we have a very close relationship, I would say, in terms of the galactics I work with. This is an older drawing, and it's just the ink sketch type of thing. There's a little bee there. I'll get to that in a second. He looks like an insect to some degree, and this is a likeness of him. He has these big bug eyes, big head, thin neck, humanoid body, but like insect like hands, legs. Does he have multiple? It's like the multiple legs are for show. It's more, yeah, because I've seen him both. I've seen him both ways. I've seen him in a form that is just more humanoid. And as I'm talking and thinking about some of my experiences with him, I'm like, I have seen him once where he was standing there and it looked like he had multiple legs like a bug. And he's saying those were kind of more part for show and perception types of things to know that it was him. But he's very bug looking. He looks like a mantis. He looks like a cross between a praying mantis and a wasp. And that's why I started calling him Wasp. And so he has a physical form. He met me in the Appalachians. I was doing a blessing or an offering down by a creek. I think it was an offering to the creek. And he had seen me from behind a tree, and I didn't know it at the time. And he knew I was conscious because he could see me doing this and then, feel my vibration and stuff. And he was visiting, he kind of travels he's an explorer. He travels all over the place, does all kinds of stuff. Every time I talk to him, he's somewhere else. I've talked to him when he's been in South America, Tibet. I think he was in Ireland one time, at Kilimanjaro, different places. He like pops around and explores all these places. He doesn't do anything. Let me be clear about that. He's like, no, he just sits there and observes. I've seen him outside of villages, usually sitting by a tree, just like he was doing with me, and he just observes and watches people and learns and is like, what are they doing? Why are they doing that? Trying to figure out how humans work in that. And that's part of what he enjoys doing. So it's his authenticity. He's saying his authenticity, and so that is what he embraces, and saying he's always provided for by embracing that. And so, and he's going fast. I can he's excited. I can feel him because we don't talk publicly like this often, but he's like, it's his authenticity. He's always taken care of. He's got a taxi driver, meaning a ship that comes and picks him up and takes him other places. He has friends all over the place. Very, very few human friends. Is that what you're saying? He's expanded his reach, is what he said, because of the work he's done with me. That's interesting. So the the story of Wasp is that he met me and he had a lot of fear around me. And he is an advanced being as well. But the fear, and when I say fear, it's not necessarily fear like our fear. It's fear that they understand, observe, doesn't hold them back type of thing. And he had a lot of fear, and we had to go through all of these scenarios. I worked with a Zeta guide who I'll talk about at some point named Radio. And they were trying to get me to meet him, and they had this whole system where Radio, if I remember right, Radio was the ship driver or operator, whatever, however you want to call them. The ships work. Some of the ships don't even need an operator; they just do what they want. And they were picking Wasp up and dropping him off different places. I went out to New Mexico. He didn't. He had trouble meeting me because I would be camping and he would want to meet me, but I would, if I had a fire, so I had to learn to cold camp without a fire, because two things: one, it's a weapon, and two, it's a light source that not only affects your vision, your ability to perceive your area, but theirs too. And some of these beings come from darker worlds, twilight worlds, dark worlds, those types of things where their eyes aren't adjusted to very strong light. And so I had to learn to cold camp, and then I had to learn to camp without my walking stick. I always carried a walking stick everywhere for it, just as a weapon, balance, all those types of things to help me. And they kept telling me, you have to put that down. He will not come to you if you have that near you. And I was like, well, I'm not doing this. I tried to meet him one night, and Radio was like, you need to leave everything. I'm like, I'm not leaving everything. I'm in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. I'm keeping this because it's for my safety. And I still wasn't trusting them fully. And so it got to a point where they debated with me, went back and forth telepathically, and then Wasp was just like, I'm not going. It's like, no, not going. And I go, okay, well, what do we do? And Radio was frustrated. So for those who don't know, ETs can become frustrated too. They have emotions. They're just like humans for a lot of them. It's just that they're more observational and aware. I call it like Star Wars or Star Trek or Stargate, those types of things, where they're just like us. They're just different levels of advancement technologically and spiritually. And so Radio's getting frustrated, not like mad or angry type of thing, but just frustrated and like, why won't you listen to me? he's telling Wasp, like, no, go ahead. He's telling me, put your stuff down. And so we do this game of hopping through the desert and building trust with me and leaving stuff. And finally, I leave my stuff. I go out, I'm in the desert in the middle of Utah. I take my chair out. I walk away from my tent. I leave the staff. It's a beautiful space. There's no light pollution, clear skies. You can see everything for miles. And even without a fire and everything, because, even just a little bit of moonlight or even just the starlight lights up the desert. And so I sit there and they go, okay, he's comfortable, he's coming. And so they go in and I feel the ship drop kind of down in a canyon type thing, small ship. Feel them come out. Wasp walks up the trail and they tell me, don't turn around. And they go, do not move. Do not turn around. Do not do anything. He may leave. And I'm like, okay, why? And he had a lot of trust building to do with me. Trust building because humans, a lot of them have seen what humans have done to other beings like them. And they know what the potential is if they get caught. If they get caught moving around, if they get caught doing things, they know the potential is there for them to end up somewhere deep down underground and not in a good place. And that was something I learned later on, that they explain more in depth in the amount of sadness that there is around this topic. And so I'm not going to get into that here. That's for another day. But just know that the stories you hear are warranted when it comes to things being done to other beings. And it's very, very sad. So he had a lot of trust to build with me as a human who could be accepted and trusted. And in this scenario, he walked up behind me and he was telepathically talking to me. I could kind of hear the footsteps and movement and that sort of thing. And I was like, well, I don't know if you're there. Show me a sign. So he communicates with a beetle, and the desert has some big beetles out there, like just massive beetles. I'm talking 50-cent piece bodies on them. And one of those suckers flies and hits me, smacks me right in the face, and then takes off. And like, shouldn't have even done that, but like, didn't land, hit me. Like, there's no reason it should have hit me. It should have known I was there. It's not hard to see me in the middle when everything's, a foot tall. So I go, oh, okay, yeah, that's probably right. And then I'm like, I don't know. Maybe that was just a coincidence. And I go, well, let's try something else. Let's try another exercise. Throw a stone. And he goes, no, 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 I'm not throwing a stone. I'm like, why not? Too many people around. There's nobody around. And there are. It's an area. It's dispersed camping, but the people that are around they're a quarter mile away. Even though it's the desert, you can see them out there. They're like a quarter mile away. You can't really see anything. And so I convince him finally to throw a stone, and he throws a stone, and it like and lands up beside me. I'm just like, then I'm like, oh, he's back there. He is really back there. And so we did these exercises, and then we went to, I forget where, so there's Valles Caldera, I think it's called, north of Santa Fe. We didn't camp there. We got diverted. You can read about this in The Raven's Way if you pick up that book. We got diverted, and they diverted me to an area near Los Alamos, which is a completely another video for another day, and then did more work building trust. But the point of this whole thing is this being who is now a friend of mine, it took work for us to become friends. It took a lot of trust. It took a lot of work. It took me releasing fear. It took me putting down things that were potentially weapons. It took me going into the middle of nowhere and sitting there at their advice and trusting them. And I'm not telling anybody to do that. Please, stay safe, whatever you do. Don't do anything that is going to put you in harm's way. But for me, it took a lot of trust to build a friendship with him. And now we have a friendship where I don't remember the last time I actually saw him. I think it was that first New Mexico trip, unless I was on a ship or something in my sleep and don't remember. But we have this connection where when he's here, like, he was gone for a while. I tried to telepathically ping him, and he's just not anywhere. He was somewhere else and not available. But when he's on Earth, he's like, we just boom. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Are you still around? Yeah, I'm in Tibet watching this village of people herding goats and doing these things and just observing them, and shows me the images, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, you're just sitting out there, nobody's paying attention to this ET just kind of leaning up against a tree, relaxing, watching everybody, that type of thing. So I guess that's the point. I have a lot of stories with Wasp, a lot, but I guess the point of this video became, rather than explaining the bee, which I'll go into another day, or you can watch the ET videos for more information that are far more in depth in the other playlist. But this one is about trust, building trust, and taking the time and having the patience to do so that you can understand it's a two-way street. It's not a one-way street. There's fear on both sides in some cases, and trust issues as well. So let me know if you have any questions. Thank you all for watching. I love you all. If you feel like you are learning from these videos or they've meant something to you in some way, please let me know, and feel free to these videos are how I support myself. So please feel free to book a spirit art reading, adopt a spirit. It's had enormous, great feedback from that. And I'm gathering the reviews and things as we go. And so take a look at those on my website, awakenwithwillow.com. I love you all. I'm grateful for each and every one of you.